Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Sit Crooked, Talk Straight. My name is Katie Myers,
And I'm Leanne Jameson.
and we are the Soul Sisters who get to come together every week and bring to you real topics, real issues, real life situations because we believe in real change. And we're just a couple of real women looking to do things a little bit differently than maybe what we were taught growing up. And so if you have found us, if you're new to the show, welcome. You are a friend purely because we are in the same space. And we do believe that women are guided to us for a reason, and there's a purpose. And so, yeah, this is our time and space to just get real with one another.
Yeah, and we often chat on right leading up to like, hey, what are we going to talk about? Because we never really know. So,
We're kind
and
of fly by the seat of our pants kind of girls.
yeah, it's always divinely guided. I think that's what's important. And sometimes, we tried the organized way, and it just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we're a little bit more the divine feminine, where we like to create as we are in our creative space. So, what came up today? We were talking about impact and the impact that we each have on each other. And, I was talking about my kids' conferences. I have student teacher conferences now. And just like the impact that these teachers have on, the kids and how they pick up on so much. And we can talk about the impact in that way. But then that led us to another conversation of just like, because I can hold I can hold a resentment towards one of the teachers. I totally can. I'm a little frustrated and sad at the same time because I just feel like she's not living in her full alignment and purpose, but it is what it is. I can't change that. But it really led us to this deeper conversation about resentment and like just holding on to the anger that we have. And I think that it's really timely actually that we're having this conversation because of everything that has been happening politically, socially, in all of the different realms globally, truly. This isn't just the United States that's being impacted by so much, but like, there are different ways that we each that we each choose to approach different situations. And it's funny because Katie and I are very, I know I've been called Pollyannish. Uh, where I can, right? Like the gift that we are able to see the silver lining, that we do have the gift of positivity, that we can turn many difficult situations into, okay, what are we learning here?
Mhm.
It's definitely a gift, but it can also lead us to ignoring some really hard facts. Having some really difficult discussions and awarenesses. So we like to just round it all out. Well-rounded discussion
Mhm.
of being able to look at the reality of situations, have your emotions about it, and be able to then release the resentments. And this really dove into just like what is really the cost of resentments, because that's what people really discuss. Like, what's the cost, what's the gain, right? That's very like literal, that's tangible, that is like, this is what is happening when you hold on to certain emotions. And resentment is a really, really heavy one that I see all over, right? When we are, and I'm going to call it out right out the gate, of just like victim mode, right? Like when we are the
Mhm.
victim, we stay victim. This happened to me. This person did this to me. Um, and yeah, and I think it's real. I know that it's really important to talk about this, because so this episode is all about the cost of resentment. And then what do we do if and when you are ready to move past what
Mhm.
you're gaining
Mhm.
from holding on to this resentment. And a lot of times I remember Dr. Pruitt, who Katie knows, who we both grew up with, professionally. He was a psychologist that we worked with, who I studied under for almost 2 years.
Mhm.
And he would always say forgiveness is a really tall order. And why don't we first, right? Like he always said, I will never forget this. He's like, the parking spot for forgiveness is acceptance. Like that's like the stop point of like, let's just accept this until we can actually like move into this space of forgiveness. But this really puts a lot of responsibility on the victim, right? Like you have to choose to take the responsibility to release that. So yeah, I feel like, the cost of resentment is, and again, we'll go into like the actual, I mean, scientifically studied when we study the impact of this energetic frequency, first of all, of resentment, but also just like emotions. We cannot deny the fact that emotions drastically impact our mental health, our physical health. It takes up so much space and time energetically and physically. And again, we can go a little bit more into that. And like, what is the true cost of holding on to this? So, any resentments that you've ever held?
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, even like thinking about like the benefit of holding on to certain resentments when I think about certain family relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and not to go into like any great detail about anything specific, but there have been relationships both familially and um, just relationally in general where sometimes it feels good. Like there's like it scratches an itch almost of like being angry or holding on or like being like, yeah, fuck them, like duh, like that. Like there's this that can feel good until it doesn't. And so like that's why like whenever I'm working with clients, it's like, okay, everyone has resentment to a degree. Some of us can let go of things and move along quicker than others. Some people, man, can hold a fucking grudge. Like, right? Like, I know some people who are holding on to things that happened with
Yes.
random people that mean nothing to them from like decades ago, but they cannot let go. They choose to not let go. And so, for whatever reason that like we hold on, there is a reason. Go ahead.
No, I think that it's really important. I love that you bring this up because, like, let's talk about the benefits of holding on to resentment, right? Like, it's so important to dive into that too, of just like, there's the reasons. I mean, when you think about it, it creates this protective shield, this protective factor, right? Where it's just like, nope, I'm not going to let my guard down. I'm not going to be vulnerable again. You fucking hurt me, or life, or like people hurt people. So there's this, like, a lot of protection around it. So like you're holding on so tightly to something, and it's just like I think about just like the constriction and the restriction that creates. But it is, I mean, a lot of times we hold on to these like, when science shows this is what happens when you eat bad food, when you listen to, a negative music, or when you hold on to these, and it's scientifically proven, and we're like, yeah, fuck you, like, eat shit, die, I'm not letting go of this. That's false. um
But so I think we get so bought into the story that we tell ourselves that it's almost like if we were to let go of that story, it's almost like we let go of a part of us.
It's so true. It's the identity. It is the identity. And when you think about it, it's the ego that's attached to the identity. That's like all, I mean, it's all intertwined.
All intertwined. So like if you're out there and you're like, yeah, like I've got this resentment and I don't know what to do with it, or I'm having a hard time letting go of it, like, okay, cool. Like you are so human and you are kind of right where you're supposed to be. I do believe that things serve us or benefit us or have some purpose for some period of time, which is why we do it. I'm a behaviorist as far as like every behavior meets some need,
Mm-hmm.
whether we like it or not, whether we can verbalize it or not, every behavior meets some need. Um, and so until it doesn't. And so sometimes we have to go through a little bit of that period of time of just kind of like, all right, I just need to wrestle with this. I'm not ready to let it go. I'm not at the place emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever, to be able to get rid of, release, whatever that is. And so if you're in that space, like one, like no judgment, like let's be super kind and compassionate and curious about, okay, what does this serve? what impact does it have on me
Mm.
right now that's serving some purpose? But then we also have to, at some point, follow up with that thought process with the question of what impact is it? Like, what is it costing me? Hold
Yes,
on, because it does limit us.
absolutely.
Even when I watched you do kind of putting yourself into a little ball of like, and like blocking yourself off, like that's protection. But we also know energetically, like that's low level energy, which does not allow for there to be like abundance and growth and
Wait.
fullness, joy, all of those things. And so it's, it's kind of circling back to the original conversation around like your son's teachers. We all have impact.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has impact. Small, big, I don't care what it is, everything has impact. We get to choose our intentions with how we want to impact others. But just
Mm-hmm.
know if you walk through the grocery store and you don't look up and make eye contact and you think, I'm not making any impact on anybody, think again. Or
Yes.
you smile at the cashier, or you ask somebody, like, how's your day? Or you tell the woman walking next to you that you really love her shoes or her earrings. You are making an impact. And so, like, energetically, like, sorry, not sorry, you are making an impact no matter where you go, whatever you do. So we talked about the teachers. You have the unique gift, I'm going to call it gift, of being able to see, right? Because you got twins, you got two boys, same grade, they have different teachers. One has a great teacher, one has a teacher that's ready to, like, who probably needs your program. She needs to, like, move on and figure out how to get unstuck. Um, but like the impact that it has on your boys, like how big of an impact we don't even realize. We don't even realize. And I know we can't walk around all day, every day thinking like, how am I impacting? How am I impacting? That's not realistic. It's not where our minds go. However, when you are faced with this episode, when you have the space to kind of reflect on what is my impact and what are my choices doing to impact me, because then that impacts how it's this full circle and ripple effect, right? Like everything continues to flow through these decisions. And I just, we're going to be at the end of 24 in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
What do you need to let go of in 24 so that you can move into 25 and with a different vibration, a different energy? But what do you need to evaluate? And so I love, like, we've got some questions of just kind of evaluating like the cost of resentment, the impact, what we've sacrificed,
Mm-hmm.
um, the setbacks that we have incurred because of resentment that we've held on to. And so just let this be like a little bit of a check-in, like a spot check of,
Yes.
maybe there are some areas or some things that aren't serving me. What can I do differently?
Right, absolutely. And again, it's like letting down that protective force and feeling safe enough to do so. And, you do this within yourself, having that conversation or do it with a trusted friend or a therapist or something, a coach or someone. But just that reflection of, because and again, like new year, I always say new year, true you, like, because everybody's like, new year, new you. No, it's always, you've always been there. You've always been there.
It's always you. It's always been you. It's going to be you. It's you.
um, and being able to, again, I know this is often a time of reflection for so many people.
Yeah.
So just embed this into some of the questions that you have of like, what am I gaining? I think that's number one, is really looking at like, what am I gaining by holding on to this, right? What are the benefits, right? What are the costs and the benefits of holding on to this resentment? Because like you were saying, it can be this sense of identity of just like reaffirming the hurt, the injustice that you're holding on to, of just like, I'm right, but I'm right. And if when we let go of this, it's like, then what does that mean? But you also brought something else up that I wanted to circle back to, is like when we sort of have this sense of community around the hurt and the pain and the resentment of like, yeah, they're fucking assholes, like, and I know that I have done that in the past too, where it's just I see a friend hurting and I'm like, God, they're such a fucking asshole. Can you believe? And like, you just go right into, and we miss the mark actually when we do that. We totally miss the mark, because what we're then shifting is into this other person, right? We're shifting our energy into the person that did something wrong, instead of being able to sit with the person who's hurting because of it, right?
Yeah.
um, but we do, it's this like sense of community, and it's so important to shift that in order to really grow, because again, that resentment keeps us stuck. What were you?
I love that so much because I am one where so Jonathan and I have this deal kind of where like if I come home and I've had a bad day and I'm like, I just need you to listen. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to align with me. I just need for you to listen. Other times I'm like, I'm about to tell you something and I need for you to be team Katie. And you better be like, yeah, fuck a bitch, right? Where are we going to go fight later? Because like, I need that alignment. But what's funny is that like that alignment only serves me for like 3 seconds. And then
Yes.
I need for there to be another voice of like, and okay, yeah, that person's a total dick. And we're
Talk
not
about
discounting that what they did was wrong or that you're hurt or that this sucks. But what we are doing is like pulling ourselves into a different perspective, into a different energetic field of what do we want to do with it. And so I often struggle with like aligning with I guess it's like I over align at times because I also don't want to under or invalidate and be like, oh, well, but it's going to be fine, because like that's not the answer either.
right,
And
right.
so it's having a balance of like, oh my gosh, like empathy, like that sounds
Sucks.
so awful. That sucks so bad. And girl,
Hmm.
let's figure out like what can we focus on. It's not toxic positivity. We're not negating that there's some bullshit going on.
Right. We're not ignoring it. We're not bypassing it. We're not suppressing it. We're not like, it didn't happen. It's acknowledging it, right? It's that self awareness, the acknowledgement, and then acceptance,
I
right?
love it. I love it. And we have to, if you don't have someone like that in your life who can be like, okay, yes, and yes, and
Mm-hmm.
again, find a therapist, a coach, someone, a mentor, someone who can be a truth teller, who can see you and love you and like acknowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Align, but then become aware that that is not where you want to land because
Right.
you will sacrifice so much.
Well, and let's talk about that. What is the true impact for some people that don't really know, or, right, is just gaining the self awareness, really looking at that like emotional and mental health. I remember it was, oh my gosh, there are so many statements, so many quotes, so many good nuggets that I took out of like, recovery and addiction treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where it's like, who are you renting space for free to, right? Like, it's like I feel like I just like missed the mark on that one.
Who's
I'm like,
living in your head rent free?
free, that's what I'm like, I know that's not the actual, yeah, who's living in your head rent free, because what is happening to you is that your peace and your serenity is totally fucked.
You've given it away. Like you've
Yes.
given it away.
Yes.
You've given power to someone else to
Yes.
now be in control of your peace and serenity, which they rob you of it. And so, yeah, like that's, I mean, it's a huge sacrifice of holding on to the past hurt at what cost? Like it's a
Mhm.
cost.
Yes, yeah. Well, and then, when we don't have peace and serenity, how does that ripple out into the world, right? How does that ripple out into our family, into our kids, into the community, right? we what is it? I mean, like you can always go into like hurt people, and like
Mhm.
when I'm feeling unsteady, that's like you were saying, at the supermarket, like you are still impacting, right? Whether you're looking down or looking up, what like there's still an impact. You're still this energetic being walking through like a sea of other people.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to recognize that. So and then looking at the gosh, like just like the the wasted time. I mean, like
Oh.
if you I just think about the years of anger and resentment that I held, years, and how heavy that was, and like how that impacted again my mental health, my peace, my serenity, but also just like so much lost time that I could have been spending in joy and in freedom and in peace and in laughter. But instead, and again, it's like this conditioning of like, I was taught that it's really important to hold on to resentments. Like that was shown to me. Um, and yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So being able to think about, like, I really want you to think about like how many minutes have you thought about this person or this situation, because we can have resentments against organizations, against
Mm.
people, against situations, and against ourselves. um
Yeah, but it's limitless, right? Like it extends to all things.
yep.
Like you said, like when you play the scenario over in your head, I'm so good at this, like not to brag, but I'm so good at playing the tape, like right of what happened before. And then I like to do this really fun thing, where I change what happened and I'm like, what I should have said was, and then I go into like all of this like fictitious, like what I would have said. And then I like to pretend what they would say back. And then the zinger that I would come back, like how
Yes.
much fucking time I've wasted. And I can't let myself sit there for very long because I will get real like, oh shit, like I've wasted years probably. But like, yeah, I can just say all up in my head and replay the scenario that didn't happen, the one that I wanted to happen, what should have happened, and then, and for what?
Yes. For
For
what? What am I gaining? What am I gaining? Really?
I felt really justified. It felt good for a minute to be like, yeah, bitch. And what I should have said was, bleh, and like really put you in your place. And then it's like, okay, but I didn't say that. And you didn't hear me say that. And so like everything that I just did was for naught. Like what does it, what does it do?
Nothing. It doesn't. It does. I mean, again, we've identified that, like, okay, if it makes you maybe feel justified for a little bit, it makes it, it protects you and all of this other stuff that would. But what the fuck are you protecting yourself from? I mean,
Well, it's
like,
imaginary hurt, right? Like it's a story that you tell
yes,
yourself, like it's the imaginary hurt.
yes,
You've already been
absolutely,
hurt. Like you've already been hurt. Like let's just accept like you've been hurt.
yes,
Done. Period. End of sentence. Let's get a new paragraph. Like, come on, flip the page. But it's the imaginary hurt that we're like clinging, like holding on to. It's wild. I mean, y'all listeners, we do this.
yes,
We're
yes.
speaking from experience and love and a very human experience with this.
Absolutely. And that's where it's like, and then when you think about like the relationships it impacts, right? And this is, I mean, I was going to segue into this because you talk about like the thoughts that you have of just like, and then I'll say, and then I should have said this, and then well, I go into like future, right? Like, okay, I'm going to have this because of past, like whatever hurts and stuff like that. Our way of trying to control that is to try to play out the entire scenario future, right? Of just like, and then they're gonna say this, and then and I would do this. I literally caught myself. This is probably like last month or 2 months ago. Probably more recently. I was gonna like, I'm sure that like this is happening, because it's an ongoing process and awareness. But like, I'll be walking my dog and I'll like have this whole conversation. Actually, yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. I was just thinking about it. Like, yeah, actually,
Oh,
I would like have this, like, I'm like, okay, I gotta talk to Ed about this. I'm like, and then he's gonna say this, and I'm gonna be like this, and then and like it's this whole scenario, and then like I have walls. That's something that I notice is that like I can put up with when I'm about to have a conversation that's very vulnerable with my husband. I will put up walls. I'm really good at this. As an Aries, we can look right fucking through you. Like we can, like it
Wow.
is when I'm all up in my head, forget about it, right? So again, I'm getting better. I will say, more conscious about it and more intentional about my actions. But having this like ongoing play in my relationship that blocks me from being vulnerable to my fullest ability, and it takes work with intentionality to open up to that. But yeah, those fucking, I'm like, and I laughed out loud when I caught myself doing it. I'm like, what are
Mhm.
you doing? Like,
Mhm.
you are having this whole conversation in your head, like, let it be,
It's
let it
insanity.
go.
Like it's like literally insanity what we
Yeah,
can conjure up and create, and
yeah.
then we're in it, like we're sitting in it, and then it's like, how did I get here? And it's like, oh yeah, I did this.
I
Oh wait, I did this. Oh shit. Right. And so again, no judgment, no, just stay curious and compassionate with yourself because Lord
just,
knows.
yes, yeah. And I mean I've seen how my relationships have been impacted, and I'll just go right to my husband because that's been the lineage, that's been the ancestry where of like we just have very tumultuous relationships. And it's a lot of it is created with our own, right? I'm not totally dismissing like it's a two-way street, and like we've been again, it's just like the men and like, and I hear it in my sisters, and I hear it like all of this stuff where it's just like we just really cling on to that, and like that's so hurtful, but it's because we're afraid to be vulnerable. I will speak for myself. I was really petrified of being vulnerable because I didn't realize how many resentments I was holding on to from the past, again situations, myself, self resentments, and just how that impacts people that I meet, people that I want to build relationships with, and then like loved ones too. So yeah,
Hmm,
it's just this ripple effect. So,
totally.
and let's talk about the fucking chronic stress and heaviness that comes along with resentment. Can we just talk about that for a minute? Anybody recognize, since we've been talking about this, are your shoulders up towards your ears? Like, are you holding on? I know, right? Like, it's
Let
so,
me
like, stress.
let me adjust myself. I get tension headaches when I ruminate
Yes.
and perseverate on things. Like I will get these headaches and I'm like, why does my head hurt all the time? And it's like, well, yeah, like you're tense and there's all this energy pent up inside of you and it has nowhere to go. And so just like, so yeah, like if you experience, we are not doctors, nor do we play one on this episode. However, research has shown a tremendous, I think one stat I read was like 90% of disease in our, I think it was just the United States, but maybe it's the world, I don't know, is caused by stress. 90%
Holy
is
cow.
caused by a mismanagement of stress. And like it was mind blowing of just like if we had better stress management, if we had better coping skills, if we had better ability to let go of resentment and have forgiveness and move forward in life, we would probably not experience the majority of disease, right?
That's
And
why.
if you think about like breaking up the word disease, it is
Ease.
ease,
Yeah.
right? And not having ease with things. And that is what we do when we hold on to bullshit. And so, like I know I experience stomach issues when I am holding on to stress or not letting go of things, headaches. And I will have, it's weird. It's caused by food choices, but also emotional choices. I will have inflammation in my hips.
Oh,
And so like
yes.
in yoga, when I would do like hip openers, like there would be like this emotional release that happened like
Yeah.
almost simultaneously. So it's all, I mean, it's all connected, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm gonna do a shout out here for like any kind of like somatic like exercises or tools that you can use. There's dancing, there's yoga, there's all sorts of dancing. There's breath work, there's Kundalini yoga, which I love. Like there's so many different ways to physically release the pain. The why can't I think of it? What not SRI, but the I forget now. Why can't I think of it? Oh my gosh. What's the, you know what? I just asked you for his
Spinal
information.
network.
Spinal Network. Thank you. I'm like, why am I forgetting? I miss it so much. I can't find anybody around here. But yeah, so there's so many different ways that you can release myofascial release. That's a really powerful type of massage. Most people just think about like Swedish massages or like deep tissue massages and stuff like that, where myofascial is like so freaking powerful. So, yeah, shout out there for all of the somatic releases because our body truly does keep the score. As you were saying, it's just like all like 90% of our physical ailments are created from stress, which is an emotion which we do not have to hold on to, which we choose to hold on to. And just finally just looking at just and that goes into like this like lack of fulfillment, right? Like we are unable to fulfill our life's purpose, our highest point of joy, like anything. And that goes right along with like the emotional distress and the stress and all of that. um where it's like we're really blocking ourselves from fully living. Like, what is actually going to happen when you release this? There's this book, um When Fear Falls Away, I think. Oh my gosh, of course. Why can't I think of things today? um but there's so many different ways to look at just, when we allow these to fall away, what is possible, what is truly possible for our life, right? It's an ego death when you think about it.
Well, I've shared my story before on this show and in my book, and whoever will listen, because I believe in it so much. But like when I had my breakdown, my mental nervous breakdown in 20, what was that, one? And I left, is that right? 22, 23, 24. I can't remember the dates. I had my like basically like nervous breakdown. I took 3 months off of work. I went into an outpatient mental health program for my depression and anxiety. And shortly after that, I resigned from the work that I was doing in corporate healthcare. And it's a process, and there are lots of factors. It's not, I don't think there's ever just like one thing. I think there's like multitudes of things and layers of things. But when I left corporate healthcare and I broke out and started living my purpose and the life and the career and the vision and passion that I had, but what I was ignoring, and really was able to start to see that through your program. When I broke free from all of that other like bullshit that I felt like I had to do in this box I was living in, everything changed. Everything. I'm not negating that there is chemical depression and there are biochemical factors and contributors and things that we have to be aware of. And medication, I am pro, if you need medication, take your medication. But I am also equally in the camp of, antidepressants weren't going to fix me.
Yeah.
There wasn't a pill that was going to fix what was going on inside of me. I had to make a shift.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And when you think about it, it's like those empowering actions. It's like no longer am I going to be a victim of circumstance. I'm actually going to do something about this and look at like where are my fears holding me back, right? And it's often a fear like if I let go of this resentment like we were talking before, then what's going to happen? Or how are people going to view me, or how am I, I'm letting the other person win, especially if, because I'm not saying that there aren't, right? Like we go through experiences that are really hurtful and really horrible sometimes. And, it's, people are like, you just want me to like, to go to, one extreme is like, forgive my rapist. I'm like, I want you to accept that it just happened, right? And like, and to look at it that way, of just like, but there's such a like, well, that means that I did something wrong, and that's so far from the truth when we are letting go of resentments, right? That means I agree with what happened. When I look at like the organizations that I don't agree with, right? And I'm just like, no, I'm just not going to shop there. I'm just not even going to think about it. Like, I'm not going to, I don't want to say not think about it, but I think about ways to work against that. And like, I'm going to go to small businesses. I'm not going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go to like, I'm going to do these things, right?
What do you have control over?
Yes. Yes. Oh.
So yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about this for another 30 minutes or
Mm,
longer.
I
But
know.
yeah, like just loving yourself through the things. There are definitely injustices in the world, so many of them.
Mm.
Um, but where you put your
I would
energy in that.
encourage, yeah, I was actually just thinking it's, taking a moment, even in this very moment, to just recognize, drop into your body
Mm,
and allow yourself the space. And if you don't have the space right now to do this, maybe come back to it and listen to it where you can just drop into your body. So sitting comfortably, maybe even dropping your eyes down. And I want you to trust that you can enter into this process
mm,
of awareness, right? Is there anything or anybody that you have been holding anger towards? Maybe we'll just start there, just anger, right? Maybe not that deep seated resentment. That might be a really tall order. But just recognizing what you've been holding on to, the anger towards a certain person, an organization, a situation, and noticing what comes up in your body. Where are you storing this anger? Is it in your
mm,
chest, your throat, your head? You might want to scan your body. Is that in your hips, your knees, your feet? It can truly be anywhere. There is no right or wrong. It's all in your body. So just recognizing that, tuning into it, and bringing awareness to the connection between the emotion and this part of your body. And with your next inhale, just bringing your air into that space that you're holding on to, that anger. And on your exhale, just imagine it dissipating a little bit. You don't have to just like release the whole thing unless you're there, unless you're ready, but just a little bit. Watching it fall with your breath, releasing it down your legs, maybe down into the earth, just sort of like letting it sift into the earth. And you can do this as many times as you choose. Again, you might not feel safe enough to release all of that anger.
mm,
But now, what we're doing is just building the awareness, building the connection between the mind and the body, and being intentional with the breath that we use and the release that we offer.
mm, mm.
And when you're ready, just gently opening your eyes.
So good.
Well, it's so important to connect, right? To connect that because we're so disconnected from the body. So
Mm,
bringing the awareness to the body, like Katie was saying, it's all so connected. If you want to learn more, the one book that I always recommend is Body Keeps the Score by Besser van der Kolk. Um, and the power that we have within us to heal too. And sometimes we do need, I say like we are our inner guru, like we have the wisdom within us. Sometimes we just need a guide to bring us back to it. um,
mm,
so we are here for that. If you need any recommendations or any like there, we have a plethora of information to give for different scenarios and maybe different releases. There's so many, I mean, too many to list here. Loving kindness meditation. We were talking about Ho'oponopo. Like, there's so many different ways that we can actually release. But first of all, bringing it to the awareness, connecting
mhm,
it to your body, recognizing the gains and the costs of what this is holding on to, and small steps towards releasing, and seeing how that feels for you, right? Sometimes it could be a little scary, and when you can get past the fear, it is when fear falls away, is the book. When you move past that fear, or maybe just move forward, even in the face of fear,
no,
you will have the experience that I know Katie and I have both experienced. So, and so many others that we have helped along this journey. So I hope, we would love to know one little tidbit of information that you got out of this. So please reach out, let us know, put it in the comments. Please, like, subscribe, share, anything that, or maybe to people that you might think this might be helpful for. I think I'm going to send it to my mom and my sister. I love you guys. I love you guys. So we want to thank you so much for spending another episode with us here at Sick Crooked Talk Straight, real women talking about real shit and wanting real change. So again, we love to hear from you. Please reach out, sending so much light and love your way. And always remember that you are worth taking care of, that you are worth releasing this heaviness and living in your highest vision and purpose. And we're here to cheer you on. So until next time. Mwah!
Mwah.